A gust of cold air breathes through a marble corridor, its silence broken only by the faint hum of fluorescent lights. The walls are lined with metal drawers, each labeled with codes that mean nothing to the living but everything to the past. A single door, heavy and unmarked, stands at the end, its surface scratched by decades of forbidden hands. Inside lies the kind of truth no book dares to tell. Records of betrayals disguised as alliances, faith rewritten as law, and histories erased with the stroke of a pen. Someone once said that archives protect civilization, but perhaps they were meant to protect power. As dust settles over forgotten ink, one question lingers in the air. What truth was buried beneath the locked doors of history? No archive begins as a secret. It becomes one. The first repositories were temples, vaults where scribes stored decrees of kings and prayers of the people. But power learned quickly that the written word could outlast its rule. So they built new chambers, beneath cathedrals and castles, where forbidden knowledge could be hidden rather than destroyed. Over time, each empire buried its own shame under stone and silence. Yet, even in darkness, truth leaves fingerprints, and some still dare to follow them. The church built its archives beneath marble and faith. The monarchs locked theirs beneath iron and fear. Yet both served the same purpose: to control what the world remembered. Every sealed letter, every redacted name, every erased symbol stitched a veil over truth. But some pages survived, carried across oceans by those who refused to forget. And in those pages lies the trail to the vaults that were never meant to be opened. In 1798, when Napoleon's armies marched into Rome, they found more than gold. Hidden beneath the Vatican lay archives so vast, soldiers swore they could hear the walls whisper. Centuries of documents sealed by popes revealed alliances with kings, bribes to silence heresy, and letters that could have rewritten the world's faith. What they opened terrified them, not because of what it said, but because of what it proved. Even today, the world's most powerful governments keep vaults that no citizen may enter. From the Vatican to London to Washington, their locked archives hum quietly, with secrets too dangerous for daylight. Somewhere among them lie files that could redraw borders, ruin legacies, or reveal how much of history was rewritten to serve a few. As we step closer to those doors, one question echoes louder than ever. When the truth is hidden to protect the powerful, who protects the truth itself? The further one goes into the vaults, the more history begins to feel alive, breathing through the parchment, whispering through the cracks in the walls. Some documents were never meant to exist. They were written in the margins in invisible ink, in languages designed to vanish. When uncovered, they didn't just challenge empires. They threatened them. One manuscript found beneath the archives of Madrid in 1949 spoke of an ancient pact between monarchs and priests, a deal that kept faith chained to power. Those who read it disappeared within weeks. The question wasn't what it said, but why it had been written at all. In every empire, there are those who protect truth, and those who bury it deeper. When the forbidden manuscripts first surfaced, governments sent scholars, spies, even priests to retrieve them before the public could know. Some called it preservation. Others called it censorship disguised as duty. Yet for the few who read the pages before they vanished, the words burned themselves into memory. They spoke of power, older than any crown, a force built not on armies or gold, but on the manipulation of history itself. The Codex Lux, discovered in fragments during the Spanish Civil War, was one of these forbidden texts. Its pages described secret councils that shaped revolutions, their signatures erased by time. But one symbol kept reappearing, an emblem resembling an eye within a circle, later found etched into stone across Europe and the Middle East. Every government that held the codex sealed it within days. No one knew why. Some whispered it revealed not history but prophecy, and that those who read it began to see patterns too dangerous to understand. During the Cold War, entire units were formed not to fight wars, but to find, classify, and hide ancient documents. Intelligence agencies raced not only for nuclear codes, but for lost knowledge that could sway nations. From the deserts of Egypt to the catacombs of Paris, fragments of these manuscripts resurfaced, only to vanish again into new vaults. Some say they were destroyed. Others say they were simply renamed, absorbed into modern secrecy. What began as parchment became classified files stamped with new insignias, proof that the war for truth had never ended. In the end, every forbidden manuscript leads back to the same conclusion. Truth is not lost, it is locked away. Behind polished walls and sealed archives lie the stories that could unite or destroy. The guardians of these documents are not villains nor heroes, but servants of fear. They know that once a single word escapes, it cannot be caged again. Somewhere in a vault no map can mark, the last of the forbidden manuscripts still waits, ink fading, paper fragile, yet powerful enough to rewrite everything we believe about history itself. Not all secrets are kept by force. Some are protected by devotion. Across centuries, men and women have guarded forbidden archives not for money or power, but out of duty. A belief that the world could not survive the truths hidden within. They became invisible, erasing their own names, speaking only in codes and glances. In monasteries, ministries, and intelligence vaults, they were known by one title: keepers. Their task was never to destroy. It was to wait until the right moment, or the right person, was ready to see. In 1963, a letter arrived at the British Museum sealed with wax and no sender. Inside were coordinates and a single phrase: "The Covenant sleeps beneath the glass." The archivists who followed the trail found not treasure, but a hidden chamber beneath the museum, one that predated the building itself. There, preserved under layers of glass, was a manuscript bearing the insignia of the keepers. Every page described how governments manipulated history to control belief, language, and even memory. The team swore an oath to never reveal what they saw. Within a month, all records of their discovery were erased. Some keepers were priests, believing their silence was sacred. Others were spies, convinced that truth itself was a weapon. But among them were a few who began to question the cause they served. One young scholar hidden within the Vatican in the 1970s discovered a pattern across centuries of secret correspondence, evidence that each great archive shared knowledge with the others. These weren't isolated vaults. They were a network, connected by codes only the keepers could read. Their silence wasn't fear. It was organization. Silence has its own hierarchy. At the top sit the masters of record, those who decide what enters history and what vanishes. Beneath them are the custodians who alter, copy, and reseal documents. Many never learn what they protect. Yet for every page they stamp, they erase another truth from memory. In one Eastern European archive, an aging keeper confessed before he died that he had destroyed thousands of testimonies, not because they were false, but because they were too human, too close to the heart of power. Every secret has a guardian. Every truth has a price. Some keepers vanished, others were buried with their archives, but their work remains, invisible threads woven through the story of every nation. To protect truth by hiding it may seem like betrayal, but perhaps they understood something deeper: that humanity isn't ready for everything it's capable of knowing. Yet now, as technology pries open old locks and digital eyes see what once slept in darkness, the age of silence may finally be ending. The keepers can no longer protect what the world has already begun to find. When the first archive was sealed, truth belonged to the few. But in the modern world, walls became wires. Every byte of information was a door. Every signal a whisper, waiting to be heard. Governments realized too late that digital freedom could resurrect the ghosts they buried centuries ago. Files once locked in stone chambers began to surface online. Names of covert programs, lost treaties, forbidden research. The war for truth had changed battlefields. It was no longer fought with fire and ink, but with code and silence. In 2006, a journalist uncovered a data leak linking intelligence agencies to centuries-old secret societies. Buried among the digital archives were references to ancient emblems, the same ones found in the Codex Lux. When published, the files vanished within hours, their author discredited and their servers destroyed. But the revelation had already spread. For the first time, citizens saw the outlines of a continuity stretching from medieval vaults to modern databases. The truth was evolving, adapting to survive censorship like a living organism. The old keepers became consultants. The same men who once sealed scrolls now encrypted digital vaults. Behind new institutions and intelligence networks, the mission remained unchanged: protect the narrative. But a new generation refused the silence. Hackers, activists, and digital archaeologists began to dig, not through soil or parchment, but through corrupted code and redacted archives. The discoveries they made echoed through every capital, proof that the forbidden manuscripts had never vanished. They had only gone online. As the war for information grew, nations built invisible armies, hackers, analysts, and misinformation engineers. Truth became a weapon, wielded and reshaped to destabilize rivals. Leaks, forgeries, and half-truths flooded the digital world until no one could tell what was real. The oldest strategy of power had simply evolved, not to hide the truth, but to drown it in noise. Somewhere in that chaos, the true archives were once again concealed. Not behind doors, but behind data. History has always belonged to those who control its record. Now, that power rests not in temples or libraries, but in servers buried deep beneath the earth. The new keepers wear no robes or keys, only passwords. Yet even they cannot contain what's coming. Every leak, every whistleblower, every file set free is a spark in a growing storm. The forbidden manuscripts of the past have become the encrypted files of today. And just as before, those who protect the truth must decide: keep the silence, or let the world finally read. Truth does not die, it echoes. Across time, every erased name, every silenced witness, every burned document leaves a vibration that refuses to fade. Those echoes haunt the corridors of power, whispering through speeches and policies, through monuments that tell only half the story. Some historians call it coincidence. Others call it memory resisting control. But every empire that builds its strength on hidden truths eventually hears those echoes return, louder than before, demanding to be heard. When secret archives are opened, the world does not rejoice. It trembles. In the early 2000s, a trove of Cold War records was declassified, revealing covert agreements between religious leaders and intelligence agencies. The public read names of saints and spies written on the same page. Faith and power had never been rivals. They were partners. For those who had believed in purity, it was a shattering realization. For those who knew, it was just another echo surfacing at last. In one forgotten vault beneath Berlin, newly discovered files revealed something stranger. A project known as Echo Protocol. During the Cold War, scientists attempted to record the frequencies of human emotion, believing memory itself could be stored as sound. Among the recordings were faint voices repeating phrases from manuscripts centuries old. The past had literally begun to speak. No one could explain it. Perhaps it was a trick of tape, or perhaps history, once awakened, had found a new way to remind us it was never truly gone. Power feeds on forgetfulness. For centuries, rulers have rewritten memory to build nations and bury mistakes. But with every new revelation, the foundation beneath their narratives weakens. Statues crumble, textbooks change, archives reopen. The same stories once used to unite the world now divide it. The echoes of hidden history have turned against those who forged them, and for the first time, people begin to wonder, if truth can be rewritten, then what part of their own lives might be built on lies? The echoes are no longer faint. They have become a chorus. Journalists, researchers, and ordinary citizens reclaiming fragments of the past that were meant to stay buried. Governments rush to deny, to distract, to rewrite again. But the rhythm has changed. Truth no longer hides behind walls or passwords. It travels through every voice willing to speak. The keeper's silence is broken, and the world begins to listen. Yet, the most haunting echo remains unanswered. If these were only the secrets we found. What greater truths still wait in the dark? Every century has its rulers. Kings, popes, presidents. But behind them moves something older, quieter, and infinitely more patient. The archives were never just records. They were the nervous system of an empire without borders. Those who control knowledge control perception, and those who control perception control history. From the secret archives of empires long gone, a new kind of dominion was born, one that needs no crown, only silence. It is not written on flags or currencies, yet it shapes them all. Its name is never spoken aloud. After the fall of the Soviet Union, thousands of documents surfaced hinting at a coalition of hidden councils, groups that transcended ideology, gathering historians, bankers, and clergy in secret. Their goal was not conquest but continuity, to keep the machinery of secrecy alive, regardless of who ruled. From Washington to Moscow to Rome, the same signatures appeared under different aliases. The unseen empire was not a conspiracy. It was a tradition, passed down like a torch in the dark. In the early 21st century, the empire evolved again. It no longer required priests or generals, only data. The same hands that once guarded papal scrolls now managed global networks, filtering truth through invisible algorithms. Whistleblowers spoke of an organization known only as the Custodians, a digital order tracing its origins to medieval archives. Their purpose? To preserve control through the illusion of transparency. For every document leaked, 1,000 others remained hidden, shaping the narrative unseen. The deeper the search went, the clearer it became. The archives were never about history. They were about control. In a quiet meeting beneath Geneva, leaked minutes revealed a council of world, advisors debating what the public should know about its own origins. Archaeological evidence, biological research, and ancient texts were classified together under one directive: containment. The empire feared revelation not because it destroyed faith, but because it restored it. Knowledge could make humanity ungovernable. For centuries, people searched for the seat of power, the throne, the palace, the leader. But the unseen empire has no center. It exists wherever truth is edited, whenever silence is rewarded. Its agents are archivists, editors, and engineers, not tyrants, but caretakers of illusion. Yet even they are prisoners of the system they sustain. And somewhere, in the quiet pulse of data and memory, the empire listens. Not for rebellion, but for belief. Because as long as humanity believes it cannot know the truth, the empire endures. It began with a single document. No insignia, no seal. Just words typed on plain paper, leaked anonymously onto the internet. Within hours, it spread across continents, revealing what scholars had only guessed for centuries: that the archives were not separate at all, but one vast system, connected through centuries of secrecy. Governments denied. Institutions fell silent. But the world had seen enough to understand history had never been written, only edited. And for the first time, people began to question not just what they were told, but who had been telling it. As the truth spread, chaos followed. Streets filled with protests, churches locked their doors, and leaders across the world delivered urgent speeches calling for calm. Yet, no voice could contain what had been unleashed. People began opening their own archives, personal letters, Diaries, testimonies once dismissed. Each story added another piece to the mosaic of suppressed history. The collective memory of humanity was rebuilding itself, one page at a time, unedited and unstoppable. Within the last surviving vaults, the remaining keepers gathered one final time. They were old, weary, and divided. Some wished to preserve the silence, others to release it all. In the end, they made no decision. The world outside had already chosen for them. Truth had escaped its prison, not through rebellion or violence, but through curiosity. What they had guarded for centuries was no longer a secret. It had become the shared inheritance of everyone willing to look beyond the veil. In the aftermath, nations tried to rebuild their narratives. Museums revised their exhibits, schools rewrote their books, and for the first time, archives opened their doors without fear. But truth was no longer a possession. It was a living thing, free and untamed. What had been hidden in stone and steel for centuries now flowed through the minds of millions. Humanity discovered that knowledge, once shared, cannot be unlearned. And though it frightened them, it also united them, not under one power, but under one question. What comes next? The archives no longer belong to the few. Their doors stand open, their guardians gone. Yet somewhere, in the quiet hum of a forgotten server, or the dust of an ancient vault, remnants remain, stories too strange, too powerful, still waiting. Perhaps some truths are not meant to be revealed all at once. Perhaps the greatest secret is not what was hidden, but why we chose to forget. The world now listens differently, aware that every silence holds a story, and every story holds a warning. The age of hidden history has ended. What begins now is something new. The age of remembering.